started. There we go. What time we got? Yeah, I guess I can wait for the recording for a minute or two. Yeah, otherwise it's been an interesting week watching the debate on Monday. There's Kristen.
Hey, Scott, how are you doing?
Pretty good overall. Pretty good. I'm glad you popped on. I was gonna probably message you tomorrow. Next week will be our second Wednesday of the month. So
Right.
we'll probably go, normal monthly meeting next Wednesday. So maybe over the weekend we get the newsletter out.
Gotcha. Sounds good.
And then secondarily on that, the following Wednesday, we won't be having a Wednesday cannabis conversation because we will be at the Not Burger Bar in Somerville celebrating 420.
Woohoo.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, Karen and I went up there this Sunday because we wanted to check out the Flower Town Festival. I had never been there before. And oh my goodness, that is a huge event. Have you ever been to that?
I haven't, no.
We're expecting, I don't know, 50 vendors or something like that. It seemed like it was a mile long down the center of Somerville's main street.
Wow.
Hundreds and hundreds of vendors, it seemed like. It was a huge event. I mean, we actually stopped at the Knot, had the special burger for the month, and had one of their special drinks. They have a beer, an IPA, strain IPA from Wicked Weed, and then they have what they're calling liquid marijuana, which is basically coconut rum, spiced rum, some melon liqueur, and then some juices, primarily I think pineapple, because that was the main flavor I got, and it was really good. I mean, with all that liquor in it, I really didn't taste the liquor. It was a delicious drink that I actually ordered a second one. And, Karen and I don't normally drink. She even sipped off it a little bit and she enjoyed it. So we're looking forward to having some of that again when we go back on the 20th. And then what is the other? I think there's another event on the 20th. We're probably going to miss at one of the local breweries locally here in Charleston. Let me see if I can find that one. I don't know if I shared it or not. I don't see that. Anyway, I just wanted to sort of kind of remind you that, meeting was coming up and then skipping a week. So, all right. Looks like we're getting pretty close to time. I am going to start the recording. There we go. And we are streaming live to YouTube. So we are at 7:02. I guess it's about time to start. I'm going to forgot to open up my little disclaimer document. And we'll start as we usually do with welcoming everybody who's here with us tonight to the South Carolina NORML Cannabis Conversation. Welcome to everybody that's here on the Zoom call with us. Welcome to anybody that might be viewing this live on YouTube. And also welcome to anybody who might be watching it as a recording on YouTube later. When I mention YouTube, I always like to point out that during our Zoom meetings, we do not monitor the comments section on YouTube. So if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, you're welcome to leave them down below off to the side, wherever your device leaves comments. And once YouTube's done rendering it, we will go ahead and check out those comments and see if we can address your questions, comments, or concerns. Let's get started with our disclaimer that all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. Go ahead and close that up. Again, welcome everybody who's here on the call with us. Topic tonight, I just kind of threw it out there yesterday that we would talk about the Compassionate Care Act, S-150, and what's going on with that. As I mentioned, our YouTube channel, we did upload the entire full testimony from the 3M committee, the full 3M committee on Monday to our YouTube channel. Matter of fact, let's see if I can find that to share with you. I can give you the link to that. I have to kind of go through sideways to get to that one because for some reason I didn't get a notification on it this time. Link without the timestamp. And I'll drop that down into the chat for anybody who hasn't seen it or hasn't gotten to it yet. That is the link for the full testimony of the 3M committee this past Monday. I know that the Compassionate Care Alliance has a YouTube channel as well, and they've been posting some snippets of it starting at different spots. A lot of extra work. I haven't done that. But I did sit and listen to it all Monday for the most part. Thank goodness for the wireless headphones, so I wasn't tethered to my desk all day. Initially I was, and I had to kind of quit for a minute and go grab the wireless so I could plug them in. And it allows me at least a little, the chance to get 20, 25 feet maybe from the desk before I start losing connectivity. And I'm going to put it out there in a little bit and ask if any of you have listened to it and what your opinions on it were. For the most part, my take on it was I thought there was some great testimony. I think that the people that spoke that day, for the most part, were supportive. There were those that were against, but I also felt that they got their 3 minutes. The people that gave their testimony over Zoom, I think it was Zoom, that whole process seemed a little bit clunky to me. It seemed like some of the people either weren't real familiar with it, forgetting to turn on their mics, or not being able to hear, or whatever it was. So I think a couple people that were, one good example of that was, see if I wrote his name down correctly, Dr. Prakash. I think he spoke over the Zoom, and his testimony, I think, was kind of abbreviated because of the clunkiness. He wasn't sure if he was being heard right away. And so I think he only got 2 of the 3 minutes on until the timer went off. But besides that, I thought it was interesting, very interesting, especially in my opinion, when the 3 minutes were done and the members of the committee were allowed to either make comments or questions. Most of the questions I thought for the supporters were pretty good. I think some of the opponents on the committee that were asking some questions, good example, in my opinion, was when Karen O'Keefe from the Marijuana Policy Project spoke. One of the questions for her was something along the lines of, and I don't want to quote it exactly, but doesn't your organization also support full recreational use? And I could sort of see that one coming. I could see that one coming if I was there to speak. And I liked the way she answered it was, our organization doesn't want to see anybody go to prison for cannabis. And I think they asked kind of for the second time, sort of the same question. And again, the same response. Our organization is not interested in seeing anybody, going to prison for cannabis. So I think that was the best way to sort of answer that. I'm kind of peeking down here in the comments. I see Shane was a rock star. Absolutely. Shane Bush, one of our usual participants in our calls. He spoke. Mike Harvey, who's on with us tonight, he spoke. I'm not sure if anybody on the call with us that also spoke that day. But anyway, I thought it was pretty good overall. And the other thing that I thought on it, and you guys could kind of give me your opinion as you saw it, but I had the feeling that when some of the opposing testimony was given, some of the questions or comments that came from the committee members, it almost seemed like they were scolding them a little, or really kind of, I don't know exactly the way to phrase it, but I mean, it almost seemed like the opponents were getting some harder push on their testimony than I think some of the supporters did. Although there was an opponent that was speaking at one point, and then probably one of my lesser favorite representatives in the House was Vic Dabney, and he was kind of coming back, if you're in pain, sometimes you just have to learn to live with it. And, I thought that was a very ignorant statement, uncaring statement. This from somebody who fought for the Constitution of the United States, has been, according to his testimony, in service to our country for the most part for 40 years. I think it was 28 of them in the military, another 12 of them. I don't know exactly, but it sounded as a subcontractor to the National Guard to teach helicopter pilots to fly. But again, sounds like he had a pretty good career collecting money from the taxpayer. And now here he is in a House of Representatives. He happened to have a press conference or a rally a week or so prior to this, pushing for First or Second Amendment rights. And this is a man who said right in this committee he has trouble controlling his hands. I'm a little bit concerned about somebody who can't control their hands controlling a gun. I think it would make him rather dangerous. But anyway,
this is Michael. Yeah, I wanted to comment about that. As a nurse, I think that we should report him to have adequate follow-up to make sure that he is safe to own guns. As being a fellow former sheriff, we know for a fact he's a gun owner. So,
yes, I believe that as well. And yeah, that concerned me. I don't want to deny people their rights, but even in his own, I don't know his exact words, but what about the safety of our community? They're worried about the safety of our community from cannabis. I'm kind of worried about this person who can't control his hands having a gun. What about the safety of the people that are around him in our community? So yeah, I found that rather disconcerting, I think would be the word I'll use for that. And I've posted a couple things on Vic Dabney's Facebook campaign page, some of it relating to that, but I think the first post I made on his was, if you don't support cannabis freedoms, then you don't seem to really support freedom. He hasn't responded to any of my comments or his people who manage his page. I don't know, but yeah, he was one of my least favorite speakers that day, or representatives. Although there was also that Sandy McGarry, I was not really happy. she had a very, negative position on cannabis as well. And somebody made a point on one of the posts. I don't know if it was on a post about the video or something like that, but it seemed kind of ironic that the people that seem to be opposed to it and giving testimony opposed to this bill, when they were done speaking and like a doctor or a pharmacist or a professional of some sort came in and spoke positively, they in the background looked to be like not even listening, not didn't want to hear it, kind of thing. And I mean, I'm thinking one was this person, this woman who started talking about apparently knowing that pregnant mothers who smoke marijuana bear children that are addicted to marijuana. And I'm like, where are you getting this information from? It really kind of, I mean, considering there are cannabinoids in breast milk and production of that goes up when a mother's pregnant, I'm a little bit concerned about this woman's ability to put cannabis consumers in harm's way. Let's let somebody else in. Actually, click another button here. So I think from the top of my head, that's what my input is on some of the hearing. I thought, again, I guess I'll repeat it a little bit if I didn't say it specifically earlier, but it sounded to me like a majority of the 3M committee members were in favor of moving this bill forward. We know that they're going to be having a vote on it tomorrow. We don't know exactly what time the meeting will start. We know it will be after the House session ends for the day. I have an app on my phone that you can get at the sestatehouse.gov page. I'll share the app link if I can find it here real quick. I'll share this link with you and you can go to Google Play or the Apple Store and download the app. This thing buzzes my watch repeatedly through the day, telling me when Senate hearings start, when the Senate session starts, when the House session starts, and then again when they end. There was one of them, I think it was a House session, didn't end until 10:30 the other night or something. It was really late. They do put in some hours on some of these sessions. I got to give them credit for that. But the app is pretty handy because it will give you alerts, will give you notifications when things are going on. So I'll be keeping an eye on my watch tomorrow and the notifications when they come through and tell me that the House session is done for the day. I'll know to jump over to the video schedule and start watching the video. As you guys know, once it ends, as soon as they get it rendered and ready to download, I will download it and then re-upload it to our YouTube page. I prefer when I can watching these things on YouTube than live. I mean, primarily because I can stop them, pause them. I can go back a little bit and re-listen to something, where on the live streams, that's a lot more difficult to do. And so that's part of the reason why I do that. I want to real quick check some comments here. Yeah, like I said, that stuff with the Abney saying walk it off, or as Kyle's mentioning here, just walk it off, or that kind of stuff. Not necessarily good advice. I would not take medical advice from Mr. Dabney. Let me see what Joey has here. You make a good point, Joe. He says some people will never be convinced. They've lived too long believing the reefer madness propaganda. They hold it as close to that as they do the Bible. Yes, they do believe there's propaganda, and it's very, very difficult to re-educate them. You know, my government told me so, so I'm going to believe it. My government. We talk about Sandy Senna on our calls every now and again, partially because she is my senator. I live in her district. I kind of upset her apparently the other day because she went off about, I don't follow sports. Is it the Gamecockettes or is the Gamecocks women's basketball team? But anyway, she really went off on one of her pages. I don't know if it's her personal or her political page about them not attending the national anthem on one of the games, and almost made it sound like she was going to go up to the State House the next day, the next Tuesday, I think was when she was due back in, and you know, address that legislatively and try and get taxpayer funds withdrawn from her and her and the team. And I mean, it's almost what it sounded like, just because she was, as I read in her own statements on an interview, it was a timing thing. They were still in the locker rooms. They, I guess, on the home games they don't play the national anthem, and at that time in general they're still in the still, it was prior to the game by a number of minutes. I don't know, it was 18 minutes or what the number was, and so they were still doing their whatever they do in the locker room, pepping them up and that kind of stuff. I guess on the winning game the other day, they did actually attend they were there in attendance when the national anthem played. But as she put it in this interview, that was right as the time we would already been out on the floor, and that we're normally out on the floor. So we were already there, you know, as where the other game, they had played it early and we were still in the locker room. But my senator made it sound like they were disrespecting our nation and causing divisiveness, and it has been noted that you know, their team has protested, I guess, against racial injustice, and apparently that upset Sandy that, you know, they would protest racial injustice in a sporting event. You know, screw the First Amendment. And I mean, she finally came back with, yeah, I know they have the right, but, and I think my comment was something about her supporting racism and disrespecting those that protested, and she didn't like that very much at all. So, yeah, at least I wasn't the only one that hit her with that. I did see that their team has been honored at the State House. Yeah, there's been different stories on whether they were protesting social justice at that particular game or not, but we do know that they have protested social justice or racial injustice. Of course, in doing what I do with a civil rights, civil liberties nonprofit is like NORML. You know, we think, oh, we're fighting for the rights of cannabis consumers, and that's true, but we're also fighting the racial injustices that come along with the enforcement of that. You know, we've all seen the report by the ACLU that for the most part, on average, throughout the state, people of color are 3.5 times more likely to be arrested and imprisoned. And you know, some counties, I think Pickens County, that number is 8.4 times more likely. And an example I've recently found, and I think I've quoted it here a couple of times, City of Charleston between January 2020 and June of 2022, a population of 21% Black has 71% of the simple marijuana possession arrests. And yet whites and blacks are known to use at similar rates. I've also been starting to hear more and more the statement of, oh, Charleston, come on vacation, go home on probation. I really don't know the numbers on that, and I'm not exactly sure how to find those numbers. I'm going to check with my connections at ACLU and the People's Budget Coalition here in Charleston to see if they have some of those numbers. But I did also read another interesting fact just earlier today on another new organization I've just found out about, that about 50% of, let's see if I can get this right, 50% of non-violent crimes are reported from our school systems. And y'all may have heard me talk before about how I don't believe school resource officers are really protecting our children as much as trying to gather them up and shove them into the school to prison pipeline for minor offenses. And when you talk about schools, yeah, each one of them having a school resource officer and almost none of them having a school nurse, I have to say, hold it. We need to rethink how we're allocating resources to our schools. Again, may not all agree with me on that, but I tie it to the civil rights and civil liberties of predominantly of cannabis, because we know a lot of those arrests, even of kids in high school, are probably simple cannabis possession arrests. And I don't think anybody should go to jail for cannabis. And the other side of that is you're taking rather minor offenders and you're putting them into a prison system, even if it's the juvenile justice system, with more hardened criminals. And all you're doing is giving them an education on how to be a better criminal. I don't think that's really the right process, but I digress. I apologize for that. I digress. That really has nothing to do per se with S1 at all with S150. Josh makes a point. He says the pill, as a parent of teens, pills are way more prevalent than weed. Again, I don't have children of school age. I don't know that. I'd be curious to know how much of that is pills that have maybe been prescribed, like Ritalin and things like that, versus, again, back in my day as a teen, I was rather a fan of the LSD. They don't prescribe that. Those were illicit street drugs. Yeah, there were speed and downs as well, I must admit. Also back in my day in the early 70s, as synthetic THC, they called it, and I don't know how that relates to the synthetic cannabinoids of today, but that was another thing I remember. But predominantly back in the 70s, I think it was more cannabis in the schools than speed and downs. And again, we didn't have some of the drugs that they have today, the MDMA, which again is a methyl. It's a cross between. I just had to look it up not too long ago. Basically, it has properties of both amphetamines and hallucinogens. I probably would have taken that as a teen. Mushrooms, I've been hearing a lot more on the news. I don't know how prevalent they are in our schools. But yeah, that would, I have been hearing a lot more prevalence of mushrooms. I mean, to the point where we're seeing some places decriminalizing the fact that they're starting to be used more in some therapies, some of these hallucinogenics. I believe the MDMA is being used for that as well. MAPS, the multidisciplinary, I have to go look up MAPS. Multidisciplinary Association. What's the full name of it? For psychedelic studies. I'll share that link with you real quick. That is kind of an interesting organization. What they're pretty much working on is MDMA therapy. I don't know what the Zendo project is, but using hallucinogenics to, oh, here we go. In their research, MDMA, marijuana, LSD, looks like ibogaine, and that one I can't pronounce, ayahuasca. But anyway, take a peek at them. We envision legal paradigms for psychedelic use grounded in social, racial, and environmental justice. Guided by public health, we advocate for the decriminalization of all drugs combined with comprehensive harm and risk reduction. No, anyway, but we have sidetracked a little bit from S-150 and the testimony and of course tomorrow's vote. Let me roll that back a little bit if we can and just kind of throw it out there for y'all. If anybody else wants to tell us a little bit about how they felt the testimony went on Monday.
I thought the testimony was great. And then, on all the opposition, they were asking questions, kind of disproving their statements even.
Yeah, I agree with you. Anybody else have a comment?
Yeah, this is Mike. Yeah, I thought we had really good support. So you look, I think we only had like 8 people against us, and 2 of those are cops. So we need not say anything there, which really bugged me actually testifying in front of those cops who are on pay. There's one SLED officer in the back that's getting paid to sit there. A little unnerving, but it went well. I think most of the representatives seemed to be very impressed and were very supportive.
Yeah, and again, we all already know, law enforcement's position. And the sad thing to me is, and again, maybe this is just my experience, but I don't believe so. If you ever have an opportunity to talk to a law enforcement officer one-on-one, without anybody else hearing, without the superiors listening, a majority of them are definitely more supportive than their administrators seem to acknowledge. The question I always like to kind of ask whenever I get a chance to talk to law enforcement is, if you have to deal with somebody who's intoxicated, would you prefer they be intoxicated on alcohol or on cannabis? And the answer is always the same. They'd really rather deal with somebody on cannabis. They're not obnoxious. They're not combative. Cannabis consumers tend to want to try and please you. Dude, what can I do to make it better? What can I do to make it, that kind of thing. And it just sort of saddens me that they're pretty much forced to do that by their superiors, because, their job is to follow orders. There was a court case, I want to say back in the 2011 or so. I'll find that someone was turned down by someone had applied for a job with law enforcement, I want to say in New York, and basically they were not accepted because their IQ was too high. And here's the story on it. It really didn't get a lot of media play, but there is an ABC News report on it. Somebody was a college graduate, scored 33 points, the equivalent of about a 125 IQ. And New London, I believe it's New London, Connecticut police would not hire him because his IQ is above normal. The normal average scored nationally for police is about 104, just a little above average. And because he had a score of approximately 125, they wouldn't hire them. And the courts found that it wasn't discrimination, but they had shown a rational basis for a policy of not hiring people above the 104 level because they don't follow orders as well. They more or less think for themselves. And, and I guess thinking for themselves, they go, hold it. Yeah, I should be arresting this person for simple cannabis use, or writing them huge tickets for going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, or other victimless crimes that, if there isn't a victim, there, my frustration. But anyway, we know, again, going back to the hearings, we pretty much know that law enforcement's going to follow the leader. They're going to repeat. Well, they're all part of the judicial system, the justice system. I like to throw a little injustice in front of that, but and where the heck do you think a lot of this propaganda has been created at over the past 50 or more years? It's through the justice system. It's been funded by the justice system. A lot of the rehabs are kind of funded through the justice system, through your taxes, through the justice system. It's all part of the same gang, all the same entity. And if you don't follow the rules, and I've seen this a couple times, I do happen to watch way too many YouTube videos on First Amendment audits and things like that. But we've seen it before where if a law enforcement officer does kind of speak out against some of the policies or things that are going on, they tend not to have their job very long. They tend to end up getting booted out and lose their job and are no longer employable as a law enforcement officer because they didn't just follow the line. They just didn't blindly follow. And it's what we have to deal with. And, that's, I think, why there's pushback and why there's some people, again, I hate the word defund the police because it's a horrible moniker, a horrible rally cry. But it's a lot easier to say, reallocate funds to other social services that could better our communities. It's not like people, and again, I was reading another one not too long ago on what does it mean when they say defund the police? And it's not about, oh, we want to get rid of police, because police are kind of a necessary thing. Although you may see me post the comment that, when seconds count, police are only minutes away. But after the fact, they will, ouch, did they just triple the freaking budget? Allocate it to services that could really benefit our community instead of militarizing, law enforcement, especially when they're trying to enforce unconstitutional laws many times. Because, like I said, they don't show up and stop the crime. They show up after the fact and investigate and what was the one I saw? We're keeping our thumb on the pulse of the situation as it progresses after a big shooting on the streets in Colorado. I think it was this past week, a couple of days ago. So yeah, and it's not, I don't want to sound like I'm anti-police, because I'm not. I'm anti-bad cop, but I support, good law enforcement. I think there is a need for it. I think they do help keep our communities, make our communities a better place. And they do a job that not a lot of people want to do. And if you do watch the news or look around out there, there is a A lot of them say they're short-staffed. I don't want to go into some of the details on some of that, but we do know that there are programs out there that, I say to the community, hey, if you hire more law enforcement officers, the government's going to pay for them for the first year or two. After that responsibility, if your community takes them up on their offer, you can't just get rid of them after the government stops paying for them. You've got to start charging the taxpayer to pay those salaries after the fact. And so there are communities that may have put money aside to do something else in the community, build a community center, or road improvement. I don't say road improvement because that's not usually local level, but maybe build a community center, and all of a sudden they hire on somebody, a couple of new law enforcement officers, and for the first couple of years they're covered. I don't know, it's a year or two, they're covered by the federal government, but after that, all of a sudden they run short on their funds for the community center because they've got to pay these new salaries and equipment and supplies for these new staff. And I mean, I've seen some where, there's just way too many law enforcement officers in the community for the size of certain communities. Now, I do have to I'm just laughing to myself because the one thing that irritates me in my community is we have, I want to say youngsters, but I don't really know the age of them. Some of them are not that young, flying up and down our main street here, a relatively busy street on dirt bikes. Don't see quad runners too often. They're mostly dirt bikes. And one of the towns near where I used to live in Pennsylvania have just deployed a new dirt bike. What would I call it? Crew to help kind of go out on dirt bikes and try and catch these people running around the streets of the city of Allentown on dirt bikes. Again, they're running down city streets on these dirt bikes and things like that. And they're not following the rules of the road. And, they don't have turn signals and things like that. They're not signaling. They're, again, on my street, we have a 35-mile-an-hour zone, and I definitely see them going by. They're gunning them pretty good. They're passing other traffic at times. I mean, it's just not safe. Unfortunately, I think it was about 6 months ago, one of them got hit by a car and killed just down the street from where I live. And I don't want to say, I mean, I would rather see them caught by the police and maybe have them think twice before doing it again than getting in an accident and killed. I don't think that's the right solution. But the way that Allentown is starting to do it with this new patrol, dirt bike patrol, it might have a chance to catch them, because otherwise, in a police car, you're not going to catch these guys on dirt bikes, these kids on dirt bikes, because they can just go off road and cut down little pathways and trailways, and good chance they're going to get away. But yeah, it was sad. I mean, we've seen too many accidents on my street here. Just the intersection near where I live is a bad intersection. There's a man about my age, in his 60s, he was in his early 60s, driving down, happened to have the right of way, but a car pulled out and happened to hit him. He had, when it hit him, he veered off and hit a freaking fire hydrant to the point where they actually sheared the fire hydrant off. Needless to say, that kind of impact, the man did not survive the crash. And this is an intersection here in my community that they've been talking about for years. Do we put stop signs, a stoplight? Do we make it a four-way stop? Do we put a stoplight? Do we build a circle? And some of the discussion was to put in a circle, I think was the final solution. But now I think some of those funds are being reallocated to finishing the 526 loop in the Charleston community. So we still have to deal with accidents on a pretty regular basis about one property down from my home. There's a lot of times I'll go out actually in my front driveway with my little traffic wand flashlight and slow down traffic and let people turn around in my driveway so they can get around and go back the other way. Because of course, when law enforcement does show up, and there's a fire company right catty corner, on the same intersection. So the fire trucks many of the time will come out and they'll kind of block the traffic, but nobody comes out and goes back to the last intersection and stops traffic and says, hey, there's an accident ahead, detour this way. They just let them keep on coming and pile up. And so I go out and pretend to be, traffic control for a few minutes or an hour, whatever it might take. But anyway, that's all sidetracking from our conversation on S-150. I didn't share it yet. Let me go ahead and share this other link here. As we've been asking repeatedly, contact the House members on this committee. If you follow this link, and if you haven't already, or even if you have, you might want to add a little bit to your letter. I've added the normal fact sheets after the hearings, because some of the stuff I was hearing do not match the facts. And so I sort of edited the letter stating that it really should be, policy should be based on facts. Here's the link to all the normal fact sheets that can answer a lot of your questions. Sent that all out to all the House committee members on the 3M committee. So if you want to kind of flood them again tonight, tomorrow morning before they meet, I really think we do have a good chance of this passing out of committee, as they're calling it, an upvote. I think we've got probably, better than 60% to vote for this. And I think they just need 51% is my understanding to vote it up from committee. Once we see how that vote comes out on Thursday, and the chair had mentioned they are willing to stay until midnight to get this vote taken care of. DJ says he's going to the State House tomorrow and to do some sign waving. All right, maybe give out some free marijuana information. Yeah, if you have brochures and stuff, take them along, pass them out. Absolutely. But once we do find out what the vote is, I will get back out to Action Network and create a new action alert, which will go out to all of the House members. Again, pretty much the same kind of thing, asking them to vote yes on the South Carolina Compassionate Care Act, S-150. Oh, I do want to say a little bit more about the hearings the other day. Is the very last person to speak was Senator Tom Davis. I think it was kind of funny because I think he thought they were going to set a 3-minute clock on him as well, which they didn't. And so he did talk quite a while. And I thought he gave a very good, presentation for his testimony, stating that how a lot of the questions that were being asked had already been addressed in the Senate. Wilson, Dave Wilson from the Palmetto Family Organization. I think the committee kind of reamed him a little bit because he had set testimony over in the Senate, and Tom Davis, spoke with them and tried to address their concerns. And what's he do? He comes over to the House and he freaking repeats the same stuff over after it had been addressed by the senator himself previously. And so I think they gave him a little bit of a reaming on that. It's like, well, didn't you support there? And talked about him being around for 30 years, and so he knows how things work. What about this 1980 bill, which was the research bill that we hear about from time to time here in South Carolina that was never funded. Oh, I know how it works. All you have to do is call your legislator, and the legislator can call MUSC and get you into the program. And he made that sound like that was a solution to a medical cannabis system. And I think they did I think the committee members did a pretty good job of kind of reaming him a good one. Yeah, because his group had a lobbying event up there. I want to say back in February before it actually passed out of the Senate, and had posted some videos on their YouTube and on their Facebook about, contact your legislators and say no to this. And I happened to catch one of them and I shared it out. And thank you all who responded, because there was a lot of comments on that video telling him how wrong he was. Yeah, is that guy for real? Unfortunately, he's as real as he can be, and it's scary. But like I say, I think the committee did a good job kind of telling him to straighten up and fly right, or whatever it is, the message, however you want to interpret it. Yeah, if anybody else is available, go up, hang out with Josh on tomorrow, hand out some free marijuana information. I'm sure he would love a little bit of companionship and company up there. Couple other things I want to touch on before we kind of wrap up, because I see we're already at 10:08. And I can't believe I rambled this long again, but of course that's what I do. We do have some upcoming events in the next couple of weeks here in mostly in the Charleston area. On April 16th, which is a Saturday, we will be setting up a table at the Bohemian Bowl, which is a bar restaurant on Folly Road right here on James Island, city of Charleston, from noon until 5. I can find you a link for that event probably pretty quick. Excuse me. Events. Go. I think I just need the short link here. This should be it. So if you are in the Charleston area and you want to come out and hang with me a little bit and have yourself a what do they have? 4 of Wicked Weed Brewing's beers, including Dr. Dank, Dr. Dank Daily Haze IPA. They are going to have, they say, about 10 plus vendors, including Charleston Hemp Collective's mobile dispensary. They'll have live music by Slim Soul and Friends. There'll be live t-shirt printing by Gumbo Design, raffles, and giveaways. So we will be there that day. The next place we will be, let me go find this event for you. This one's on our Facebook page. We will be at the Knot Burger Bar in Somerville. There's the link for this one. And we plan on getting there about 5 in the evening. I was planning closer to 6, but I see that the owner of the bar set a start time of 5. I'm going to start now by thanking the Knot. They've recently changed their name from the Celtic Knot. They were the Celtic Knot last year when we were there for 420. And the reason we went last year is because they had contacted us either end of March, early April, and said, hey, we do a monthly fundraiser for different nonprofits. And what they do is they have a special, what they call a give back burger, or they call them Birchies after one of the owners. His name is Birch. And I don't know exactly why they call them Birchies, but I think it's kind of after him. It was a little confusing to me last year. But anyway, they do these burgers. The special this month is called the Munchie Burger. It is topped with some pickles and chili and Frito chips. You can get a single patty, a double patty, or a triple patty. They do a smash burger type thing. When I was up on Sunday, when we went up to the Flowertown event, we stopped at the Knot Burger Bar. My wife had a single, I did a double. And then they also have, and for every one of those sandwiches they sell, they donate $2 to South Carolina NORML. They also then have a mixed drink. They're calling it the liquid marijuana. I'm not much of a drinker, but I ordered 2 of them the other day. After the first one went down so easy, the wife took a couple of sips off it. I said, that was good. And since we're going to be walking this Flower Town thing, I'm going to have time to walk off whatever alcohol. So I ordered a second one, and she shared that a little bit with me. But primarily it's spiced rum, coconut rum, some melon liqueur, and they say juices. I think predominantly I got a pineapple juice flavor from it. Threw a couple of maraschino cherries in there, and it was really good. I mean, it wasn't alcohol heavy in my mind. I didn't really get the punch of alcohol as much as I got a good, pineapple juice flavor, and the melon liqueur. I mean, it was really, really good. And then they have strain IPA from Wicked Weed on as well. And for each one of the drinks, either the beer or the mixed drink, they also then donate $1 to South Carolina NORML. Last year, they donated about $960 to us. I mean, that is huge considering our minuscule budget for most years. And as a matter of fact, just with our board, at one of our board meetings in the past couple of weeks, I've been talking to our board members going, hey, we need to come up with some ideas to raise some money because our coffers are getting really low. I mean, we try not to spend a lot of money, but it does cost us for our Zoom account, our online presence. We have to buy the domain name. We have to pay for the hosting service. We have a subscription for Zoom. Our Shopify account has a fee to it. Shipping for some of that stuff is paid for, but we see it go back out. I just ordered and received not too long ago about 1,500 more of the brochures that we give away, the postcards that we give away. So, some of these things that could cost us a little bit of money. And, so we were talking about this just at the end of March. And sure enough, on the March 31st, I see the Knot start promoting that they were going to give back to South Carolina NORML again this year, which thrilled me because I figured it was kind of a once and done thing. I didn't expect them to pick us up and do it again this year, and they are. So I'm really thrilled about it. If you are in the Somerville area and you like a good burger or a nice drink, definitely stop in. And we will be there again on April 20th, 420 from 5 o'clock till I'm old. I'll probably be scooting out of there about 8:30 before, at least at the latest 9 o'clock to drive back down to Charleston, which isn't only about 35, 40 minutes, I think, from there. And knowing me, I'll probably get there and have my burger and my drinks early so that I'm not drinking for a couple of hours before I leave. But I am planning on having another couple of those liquid marijuanas because they were pretty good. Let me kind of scroll down and check comments here. I see we're really close to 8 o'clock, and we don't have to shut off at 8. But oh, I forgot. Oh, yeah. I'll share this link again. It's called the Knot Burger Bar, and you can find their information if you follow through this link here for the Facebook event. And it is in Somerville. Strange names up there. It's something like 208 South 5th North Street. They have a whole bunch of North Streets, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 9th. I've never quite seen a street naming process in most towns like that. But anyway, good spot. It's just kind of a good neighborhood pub kind of feeling. And they have, like I say, recently changed their name. I did see earlier today or yesterday, I think it was, the sign out front has been taken down. They're putting up a new sign. So hopefully by 420, the new sign is up and it'll be easy to find them. We did get an invite, and I had to actually send back an apology that we couldn't participate. But let me go find this one. There was a place up in Greenville that invited us to come and participate. No, I'm not seeing it. Yeah, okay. If you are in the Greenville area by chance, 8th State Brewing Company is having a kind of a 420 event on 421. A bake-off. They'll be featuring, it says big goods from a local bakery, Palmetto hemp provisions, and hopefully a couple of other local pop-ups like a skate shop, comic book store. They invited us to come participate, but I think it's 3+ hours away, and we don't have any volunteers that I could find in our volunteer list that are up in the Greenville area, where I would have at least sent them, some brochures and stuff if they wanted to go and hang out and hand out brochures. So, oh, there we go. Josh is asking, what are your thoughts on federal? I think we have a good chance with the Dems trying to improve their approval rating. What I read recently was we would need all the Democrats to vote for the MORE Act in the Senate and 10 Republicans. And I think that's going to be a bit of a push. Getting all the Democrats, there's still many. I mean, two voted against the MORE Act in the House. I don't know what that noise is. And all the Republicans voted against it. There wasn't a single Republican vote for the MORE Act in the House. Even Nancy Mace voted against it. And she stated earlier, she's been promised a hearing in the House, a hearing for her bill. And there was no quid pro quo. She wasn't going to be required to vote for the MORE Act to get this hearing. Somebody had to just bounce out. See you later. Thank you for, I think it was Kyle. Thank you for, oh no, there's Kyle yet. So I think it's going to be a push. I mean, I would say write your senators and ask them to vote yes on it, but we're talking about writing to Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott. And I don't care how many letters we write. I don't think we're going to get either of them to vote yes on the MORE Act in the Senate. I hate to say. I mean, you look at Nancy Mace's bill. She's a House Representative member in South Carolina, and there are, I believe, 8 other House members in South Carolina. Not a single one of them has signed on to her bill yet as a co-sponsor. I mean, you look at the MORE Act, it's got 120 co-sponsors. You look at Nancy's, it's got 4. It makes it a lot more challenging to move legislation when you don't have co-sponsors. I mean, get out there, write to your House members here in the state. I think we've got a better shot of getting the House members in the state, a couple of the House members in the state to sign on with Nancy's bill than we do having any of the senators in the state to sign on as a co-sponsor for the MORE Act. And of course, here we are, the 6th of April. We're still waiting for the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act to be properly introduced. I keep saying, I hope they're not trying to, wait till 420 and use that as a, oh, here, look what we're doing on 420. I think that's kind of ridiculous. Freaking introduce it already. I'm pretty sure they've got it redrafted by now. They've been working on the redraft since September. So yeah, that's kind of my take on federal. Anybody want to give me their thoughts on it? Oh, that's who had to bounce off, was Kristen. Okay.
Sorry, I can't make comments. You're being recorded.
Yes, we are, and we're live streaming and recording on the YouTube as well. So I appreciate that. Andrea had mentioned down here, sometimes it takes a family member and then they sign. If it's personal and or a family member, I did kind of appreciate somebody trying to, one of the people giving testimony on Monday, they kind of got cut off before they were finished. But they tried to start to talk to Vic Dabney about his shaking, and I think they were going to suggest cannabis to him to help with that, and he got kind of stopped in his tracks from making those statements because his time was up. I think if Vic Dabney would try it and find that it helped him, he might look differently at it. Of course, when it becomes personal. We could probably talk about some sort of non-recorded and non-streamed to YouTube event. Yes, as Andrea says, maybe a members only type event. I think that would work out where we could do a members only chat. We do like to record them, and like I say, I don't even know why I record them when I'm live streaming them to YouTube, because I don't really save it. I mean, the recordings do save on my hard drive, but they're already out there kind of saved to YouTube for posterity. And that way, what I do quite often is I go on and grab the embed code from YouTube. If we're doing a post on our blog on our website, I can just embed them into the blog, and it doesn't eat up any bandwidth on our blog site per se. It's still all out on YouTube. But that is a good idea, and I like the idea that it's we could do a member only chat. Let me think about that when we can kind of put something together, like I say, a monthly sort of thing, where we can maybe do a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? We can speak a little bit more openly, knowing that we're not broadcasting, recording. And yeah, it would give us an opportunity. Matter of fact, Mike had mentioned it the other week. Why do you start recording so early on? Let me go ahead. I want to say something. So I'll shut off the recording, or try and hold the YouTube up a little bit. But yeah, that's a great idea. I like that. It might be a good way to help add to some of our memberships as well. I have not done it yet. I meant to get one out last week, and I did not. I am going to email out a discount or a bonus type thing on our website for members only. So watch your emails in the next couple of days for a members only email promoting some sort of 420-ish April promotion on our website. It might be something where, I'm not sure yet, buy a t-shirt or spend $25 and we'll throw in something else. I know one thing we do have that we can use for some of our premiums would be a copy of the clinical applications book, because we did kind of restock on those at a very good price from National, because we're still getting the 2017 version of those. But yeah, keep an eye on your email in the next couple of days on that, and I will definitely get something out. I keep putting it off. The other thing, while you're here on the phone, Josh, I have not forgotten to call you. My note is still here. I'll reach out tomorrow. We can see if we can get something on schedule where you and I can chat a little bit. And yep, put a note there for April promotion. All right. That's my thought on federal, and that's kind of what I have for tonight. We are running a little after 8 o'clock. If anybody wants to just do a little bit more chit chat, I'm good to talk for a little bit more. The message just popped in. Happy 420, y'all. Yes, everybody have a happy 420. We will be on again next week. Primarily, the phone call will be monthly meeting, or the Zoom call will be monthly meeting, where we, again, will try and talk a little bit about what's going on at federal level, more than just the MORE Act. Maybe by next week, the COA will be announced. We'll talk about what's going on with Nancy's bill, if anything. We'll talk a little bit about where the Safe Banking Act is, all that kind of fun federal level. Actually, the bill that just passed on expanding research, and some of that new authority given to the Attorney General on making some of those decisions. State level we'll talk about, but again, it's going to be predominantly on S-150. because there is no other marijuana information really moving, marijuana legislation moving in our state. And I don't see anything else moving in our state until, on that until next session next year. The other thing we'll probably talk a little bit about next week as well is upcoming elections, the upcoming primaries on June 14th. I keep checking our Smoke the Vote page to see if the third party that updates that with the upcoming elections. We'll get our primary on there soon. The next one on there is, I think, a May 27th special election. But I do have to point out that filing for the primaries just ended on March 31st. So they're probably still working on that throughout. And they have to do that through all 50 states. I don't know if all of the deadlines were on March 31st, but we know ours was. So I'm expecting hopefully by the end of April at the latest, they have that taken care of. I have gotten a couple of candidates to fill out our candidate questionnaire, and I will keep addressing candidates as they see them to try and ask them to fill out our candidate questionnaire. Once Smoke the Vote gets the new primary on there, I will get in there and I will update it with the information I've gotten from these candidates. That's a big thing we're going to have to kind of address too, is keep an eye out and updating, keeping an eye on who's running for what. Vote for people that are pro-cannabis, try and vote out candidates that are not. We'd had a Republican candidate on a couple of weeks ago from, I forget what district, I want to say 82, but I might be wrong, Dorchester County area, who was pro marijuana law reform. I don't know who his opponents are, but again, I want to try and get as much of that information for you as I can on who is pro and who is anti, and hopefully you vote accordingly. I know some people will say I don't vote by just issue. I vote, on one issue. I'm not a one issue voter. Me, I pretty much am. I'm a pretty much one issue voter. You better be pro cannabis if you want me to vote for you. So, all right, let me just check notes one last time here. Happy 420, nice happy anniversary. DJ will be DJing on 420, hopefully a green-friendly event. And Andrea says she can help as far as some of the candidacy info. So I will keep that in mind, Andrea. And I'm pretty sure I have your phone number, but I'm going to make myself a note to contact you. And we'll be talking in the next day or two. All right, guys. 8:11. Anybody else got anything else they want to talk about? I'm going to cut it short then, and we'll, like I say, we'll see about a. Thank you for that number. I will think about when we can get a members only chat going so that we can have a conversation without recording or without live streaming. And we can kind of let it all hang out. All righty. That's it for me tonight, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I love that you come out and you support and you join me. And we will be back again next Wednesday. As I was going to say, as always, we will not be back out on 420. We won't. I tried to do a meeting on 420 from the knot last year, and there was just too much noise going on, and people couldn't hear me, and I couldn't hear them on the Zoom call. So we are going to pass on a conversation that night. Maybe that's a good time for us to kind of schedule a 421 private conversation with members. I think that might work. I'll put that on my list. All righty, that's it for me. Thank you all very much, and have yourself a great night. We will see you back here next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Don't forget, follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. visit our website at NORML or scnormal.org and scroll all the way down to the bottom, sign up for our newsletter. And otherwise, have a great night. We will talk to you all soon. Thanks, everybody.